Welcome all. Today is our first class regarding to the topic of goods and services tax. This is a certificate course conducted by Department of Economics with Foreign Trade of VTB College Sri Krishnapuram. So once again, welcome all. So before going to the details of goods and services tax, let me describe what is tax. So what is tax? The word tax derives from, or the word tax comes from a Latin word taxo. Okay, the word tax comes from a Latin word taxo. A tax is a compulsory payment levied by a government on or an individual or an organization to raise revenue for public work. But generally, a tax is levied by the government and it is a compulsory fee. Okay, it is compulsory. No one can evade the tax. Okay, the collected amount is then used to fund different public expenditure programs. So tax is one of the most important sources of revenue for the government. The government funds all its expenditure, majority of its expenditure by using the amount which is raised in the form of taxes. So, failure in payment of taxes or resisting to contribute towards it invites punishment under the predefined law. Okay, so in nutshell, tax is a compulsory fee or compulsory payment which is levied by a government. Okay, the collected amount will be used by the government for meeting its public expenditure policies. So, the tax can be divided into two. The first one is direct taxes and the second one is indirect taxes. So, in order to understand what is direct taxes and what is indirect tax, or in order to distinguish between the direct and indirect tax, we have to we have to make familiar with the two terms, the impact and incidence of taxation. So, what is impact of tax? The impact of tax refers to the first point at which the tax is levied, that is, the impact of tax refers to the point at which the tax is levied, that is, on which the tax is levied. The first resting place of tax is the impact of tax. Okay, and on the other hand, the incidence of tax refers to the group that ultimately pays the tax. So, the incidence of tax refers to the last resting place of tax. Okay, the difference between impact and incidence of tax is that the impact of tax is the first resting place of tax, or the impact of tax is that on which the tax is levied at first, and the incidence of tax means that who pays or who carries the ultimate burden of the tax, that is the incidence of tax. So for direct taxes, the impact and incidence by upon the same, that is the impact of tax and the incidence of tax is on the same person under the case of the direct taxes, and on the other hand, in case of indirect taxes, the impact and incidence may vary, that is the impact of tax can be shifted to some other persons. Okay, so what is direct tax? Direct tax, as the name suggests, the tax that are directly paid to the government by the assessee, or if a tax is paid by the individual on whom the tax is levied directly to the government, that is the tax. If the tax is paid directly to the government, it is known as direct taxes. So the impact of the tax and incidence of the tax will be on the same person. They are called so as the burden of taxation falls directly on the taxpayer and cannot be transferred on to anyone else. Okay, for example, income tax. One cannot transfer the burden of tax to the other persons. Okay, so what is in the various examples for direct taxes are these: income tax, wealth tax, gift tax, expenditure tax, interest tax, etc. These acts are regarding with the direct taxes. Okay, and what is indirect tax? So, indirect tax is the opposite of direct tax. That is, in the case of indirect tax, the impact of tax and the incidence of tax may not be on the same person. that is, the person on which the tax is levied can be shifted to other person. Okay, the burden of the tax can be shifted to other person. Okay, the government receives indirect tax payments from the seller of the goods or service. The seller in turn passes the tax on to the end user, that is buyer of the goods or service. So for example, the excise duty. Okay, the excise duty is one of the most important indirect tax. The excise duty is the tax on production. Okay, so the government levies the excise duty upon the producer. But what is the action taken by the producer? The producer may shift the tax to the buyer or to the purchaser. Okay, so the producer will add the tax along with the price, and it will be shifted to the ultimate consumer. Okay, so that is indirect tax. Indirect tax can be shifted. So the direct tax, this the what is the difference between direct and indirect tax? This is a table which shows the major difference between indirect and direct taxes. Okay, the direct taxes. The direct taxes are paid directly by the individual or entity to the central or state government. The various examples of direct taxes in India are income tax, corporation tax, capital gains tax, profession tax, property tax, road tax, stamp duty, etc. And on the other hand, indirect tax. These are paid by one individual entity to the government, and subsequently the tax burden is passed on to the different entity or individual. In nutshell, actually, under the case of indirect tax, the impact of tax and the incidence of tax varies. That is, the person on which or the person on whom the tax is levied at first can be shifted to another person by means of shifting. Okay, so one of the most important example for indirect tax is goods and services tax, GST. Okay, and the other indirect taxes are value added tax, customs duty, excise duty, securities transaction tax, dividend distribution tax, sales tax, etc. Okay, so what is goods and services tax? Goods and services tax is one of the most important indirect tax in India. One of the most important indirect tax in India. Goods and services tax is an indirect tax levied in India on the supply of goods and services. It is a tax levied on the point of sale. Okay, it is a tax levied on the point of sale. The tax is basically divided into 5 slabs. That is, there are 5 GST rates in India: 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. Although GST is collected by central government, taxes on petroleum product, alcoholic drinks, electricity are separately collected by the state government. Okay. There are mainly 3 types of GST in India: CGST, SGST, and IGST. CGST means, or the full form of CGST is Central Goods and Services Tax. So, as the name suggests, the central GST or CGST is collected by the central government. The GST which is collected by the central government is known as CGST. Okay, and the tax or the state is SGST. SGST means, or the full form of SGST is State Goods and Services Tax. The SGST is collected by the state government, as the name suggests, that is, State Goods and Services Tax is collected by the state government. And IGST or Integrated Goods and Services Tax. So, as the name suggests, it is collected it is collected by the central government when there is interstate supplies or interstate sale. The IGST will take place. So, in the coming sections, we will discuss more about goods and services tax. Okay. So, the GST is an indirect tax which has replaced many indirect taxes in India. The Goods and Service Tax Act was passed in Parliament on 29th March 2017. So, the major date is the Act came into effect on 1st July 2017. That is, the goods and services tax came into effect in India on 1st July 2017. So please note that the Goods and Services Act came into effect in India on 1st July 2017. Goods and Service Tax Law in India is a comprehensive multi-stage destination-based tax that is levied on every value addition. So, friends, let us discuss more about the goods and services tax in the coming sections. So, it is just an introduction. Hope you understand well. If there is any doubt, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.